Good evening, guys. I'd like to welcome you to my second episode, a follow up from the TV broadcasting stream that I made a few days ago. Just to follow up on that, I hope that it has provided you guys with the relevant information to understand the distinction on the use of the word channel frequency as against the program. That was the intention of the program to spur a more informed use of certain words that we use in the field of broadcasting. Now, on this follow-up, I'll be talking mainly about antenna performance comparison and how to receive digital TV signal. In this case, for Mega Manila, as an example, I was thinking of doing Cebu and the Davao example also. But, maybe we'll do that on the follow-up video, maybe part 2.1 uh, on this stream. I'd like to thank my sponsors before we begin. Ryu Ramen, they have branches in Makati. I think they have one in Aura also. You please do check them out sa Facebook account nila at sa website nila. Their Facebook is Ryu Ramen Curry. Sa Instagram, it's the same, Ryu Ramen Curry. And the website is under the menu group.com/Ryu-Ramen. So they do accept online orders. They used to have a branch in Timog. I haven't checked it out for 4 years, I think. And our next sponsor is Naughty Cafe. They have branches. They have two in Malabon. They have one in Navota City, one in Bacoor, Cavite, and then one in Laguna. They offer very nice, soothing taste of fruit combined with tea and milk at an affordable price. And I think they do accept online orders or for pickup. Yeah. So for our stream, sorry, medyo parang may problema ng konting lalamunan. So the antennas for evaluation. The reason I decided to do a stream about the different types of antenna, because most of the time, as people who's shifting to digital reception to enjoy better picture quality, we are confronted with the decision what type of antenna to use. Okay, now that is a very subjective term because the type of antenna that you should use will be determined by where you are and where the transmitting towers of the broadcasters are. So you should uh, know where are the signals coming from. So I have provided additional slides here to give you an approximate location of the towers with respect to wherever you are. So since this is meant for Mega Manila signal reception, so I have highlighted key areas that might be close to where you live, and you can use that as an approximation on how to configure the location of your antenna, the orientation, and the polarization. I'd like to dispel also the deceptive advertisements that has been circulating in social media and sometimes through false advertisements. I'm sure you've seen a label like a full high definition antenna. So let me tell you guys that there is no such thing as a high definition antenna. Antenna is just an antenna. Its main purpose is to receive the RF. That's it. It doesn't even know if it's HD, SD, 4K, or 8K. So once you see those kind of false advertisement, it should be raise a red flag. Okay. And then what else? The mounting is very important also, and the quality of the material being used. But of course, that's an add-on to the feature, which would also increase the cost a little bit to suit whatever preference. Because most of the time, many people buy antennas by the looks of the antenna. If it looks complicated, has so many elements, or sometimes we can go as simply as I like the color. So for us, we'd like to establish that it's based on performance and technical parameters. So I've identified the stock antenna of the TV Plus. So it comes free when you buy TV Plus. So many people do use this kind of antenna. It's a magnetic type antenna. So some people, they do complain that it's hard for them to receive the other services from other networks. So I'd like to also explain that briefly in the succeeding slides. There is a reason behind, and it is not the fault of TV Plus. Next is the Baron BRL antenna, which is meant to provide you with better signal reception compared with the TV Plus stock antenna. And then I have here the DX antenna 3-element, the Mass Pro 3-element antenna, and then another DX antenna, the panel type. Now I've shortlisted the following because they almost belong to the same class. So, but I'll be showing you some other antennas that could be worth considering uh, depending on your location. So I'll show you some videos of some of the antennas that I have that I was planning to do some tests, but then I wanted to narrow down the playing field here. Somewhat they are on the same class of type of antenna in terms of the gain. Yan. So I chose the stock antenna of TV Plus, Baron antenna, the 3-element of DX antenna, Mass Pro, and then the UAH 500 panel antenna. So let's look at the video. So I have here a magnetic type version from RCA. This is the Mass Pro 3-element antenna. This is the DX antenna 3-element. We call it UA3P1 or 3P2. And then I have here the UAH 500 panel antenna. So pretty much they have the same size. This is my 14-element Yagi antenna. And then this one is my 20-element Yagi antenna. This is the test instrument I used to log the data that has been captured by the antenna. It's a Leader LF990. It's a signal level meter meant for analog broadcast and digital broadcast. Okay, so we should stop the video. Okay. Okay. In addition, I have this, I think UAH 750, but then again, okay. This is the setup. So this is very important for us to take note. So I have in the setup 2 antenna configuration. So I illustrated there the three-element antenna and the stock antenna of TV Plus. Notice one is horizontal polarization, one is vertical polarization. So if you want to do horizontal polarization, the antenna should be, or the TV Plus stock antenna should be like this. Okay, that's horizontal polarization. If it's like this is vertical polarization. So the way you do that with typical antennas like that of three element. So the same thing, the treatment. If it's horizontal, all the elements should be parallel to the horizontal axis or to the ground. And if it's vertical polarization, the elements should be perpendicular to the ground. Okay? Do I need to explain further? Wait. So if you mount your antenna like this on a pole, okay, so you mount the pole is here, so the antenna will be like this. This is vertical polarization. If it's like this, which is the common mounting of all antennas that you see on the roof, this is horizontal polarization. Okay? Yan lang po siya kasimple. So the procedure I've written here, you need to connect one antenna first with respect to its polarization, then do a full scan doon sa test instrument, okay, and then read the data captured from all the target frequencies that you wanted. Okay, and then after you logged all the data for, let's say, horizontal polarization first, you repeat the same process doing the vertical polarization. Okay, so may illustration naman tayo dyan. And then you repeat the process and then log the data. Now you have to do this for all frequencies. Okay, that's what we call the frequency sweeping, because not there's no single antenna that is perfect for all frequencies. Antennas are optimized to certain range of frequencies. So in our case, we're targeting channel 14, which is at 470 megahertz, and then channel 51, which is at 700 megahertz. So you have this range of frequency, 470 up to 700 megahertz. So that's also the range of frequencies, channel 14 to 51 for the channels available for digital TV service. Okay, so the selection of a particular antenna will be dictated. Which range of frequencies do you prefer more than the others? Okay. So this is the illustration that shows you the approximate location of each digital TV transmission. So you will notice that GMA, uh, ABS-CBN, PTV, GEMNet are pretty much in Quezon City area. So let's just say if you put uh, a reference point, let's say sa Quezon City Circle, all of these towers are within maybe 1 to 2 kilometer radius. Okay, and you'll notice TB5, Beam, UNTV, and Zoe is somewhere there also. They're clustered into the Antipolo range. Okay, Solar used to be somewhere in Mandaluyong, but recently they transferred to the same area where TB5, Beam, and UNTV are. Okay, so you see the clustering of the position of the transmitting towers. So sometimes, if you're oriented to a certain direction, there are less chances of you getting the other station. So you have to optimize the orientation of your antenna. Now this becomes less of a problem if you're outside Metro Manila. If you're, let's say, living in Quezon City, then I recommend you use an omnidirectional antenna because you're in the middle of all those stations. So in order for you to capture most of the signal, get an omnidirectional antenna or antenna that has the least amount of gain. Now, if you go outside of Metro Manila, I recommend that you use a higher gain antenna. So something like a 3 element, 14, and if it's still difficult, get a 20 element antenna. So this is one of those reasons why the stock antenna provided by TV Plus is an omnidirectional one. Because if you're somewhere in the city, you get the benefit of capturing signals in all directions. Okay, so I have highlighted here several key reception areas. So I mentioned Mega Manila. So we have here Balanga, Bataan, Angeles, Pampanga, San Fernando, Pampanga, San Miguel, Bulacan, Malolos, Santa Maria, Bulacan, San Jose del Monte, North Caloocan, North Quezon City, Antipolo, Tanay, Cainta, Calamba, Laguna, San Pedro, Las Piñas, Muntinlupa, Parañaque, Tagaytay, Silang, General Trias, Cavite City, and Bacoor, which pretty much covers most of the identifiable areas within Mega Manila. Okay, so you will notice, as an example, if it's Balanga, Bataan, okay, here, from true north, looking at this one, we rotate clockwise. Okay, I chose clockwise as convention to make it easier for people just following the rotation of the clock. You move to 90 degrees. So if you're in Balanga, Bataan, you check from your compass, the typical compass, or if you don't have one, you install an application to your phone, an Android phone. Usually you can get sa Google Play ng free compass app. So if you look at the compass, go 90 degrees, so you rotate like that, and that would be the direction of your antenna. Okay, so if you're in Balanga, from true north, rotate 90 degrees to face this direction to get the optimum signals, the DTV signals. Okay, that's an example. And then if you go to Angeles, which is about in the same line with San Fernando and Malolos, almost, then I guess this would be around 90, about 150 degrees. So you get the idea. Okay. Now I prepared the table here. I don't know if you can see it. So I took the liberty of logging all the locations, the rotation that you need with respect to true north clockwise, and the recommended antenna to use. Okay. Now, why do I decide to make a recommendation about the type of antenna? Because with respect to distance and to the transmission ERP of some of the DTV stations, it is less likely that you'll receive them if you're using a typical low gain antenna or the stock uh, antenna of TV Plus. However, the stock antenna of TV Plus, when they sell the TV Plus, most likely ABS-CBN signal will be able to reach your area. Now, the objective is, of course, to reach or to get as much DTV services as possible. That's our general objective. So in this table, notice that most of the areas outside Metro Manila, I do recommend using 14 element Yagi antenna. And you have to put it on top of your roof. Now, there are people who likes to put their antenna inside their house. Antennas, the general idea or the concept is to put it in an unobstructed place because you wanted to capture the highest signal possible. And you can only achieve that if you put it on top of your roof, free from any uh, obstruction. Okay? Ganoon siya. So, the standard is 10 meters with respect to ground, and that's 30 feet. Now, of course, I'm sure you wouldn't want to, or you'll be spending a lot of money to put up a 30 feet pole for your TV reception. So at least if you put it on your roof and you have like 6 to 7 feet, that would be okay. Okay. The yellow indicates uh, stations that are not yet operational with that channel. So PTV, IBC, TV5, RPN, and Zoe are not yet using their channel 14, 17, 18, 19, and 20 allocation. So they have yet to put up their facility for that one. The orange colored indicates weak or intermittent signal. As I mentioned in my previous live stream, in digital, you only get perfect signal or no signal. Now, the boundary between them, when you say intermittent, that's the time you experience minor or massive pixelization of the image, which means the signal you're receiving is already on the boundary of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable for faithful decoding. The red ones uh, tells us that you cannot get the signal on those areas, even at using a 14 element antenna. So maybe you can use a 20 element antenna plus an amplifier. These are the areas that are really necessary for TV networks to look at. And these are usually in the northeast portion with respect to Quezon City. So that's North Caloocan, North Quezon City, San Jose del Monte area. And the Baliches are really difficult DTV reception areas. And yes, so here, so you'll see Trece Martires, Dasma. Okay. When we go to Metro Manila, like Malabon, Nabotas, Valenzuela, most of the cities in Metro Manila, a typical three-element antenna, a dipole, um, would suffice. Okay. If you're in Quezon City, Makati, Quezon City, Makati, yes, Mandaluyong, San Juan, Taguig, maybe some parts of Caloocan closer to QC Circle, you're okay with the stock antenna of TV Plus. But you go farther away from those areas, it's recommended to go for at least the three-element antenna. Okay. Now I've highlighted that in Las Piñas City, Muntinlupa, and Parañaque, it is advisable to use the 14 element because the distance of these three Metro Manila city is quite substantial already. Now we look at the overall performance. So if you look at the table, you'll notice the blue one refers to the blue refers to ABS-CBN channel 16, and then the red one represents ABS-CBN channel 14. Gray is GMA, and then orange is TV5. I've taken the liberty to sweep the performance. So this is from channel 16 to 51 for vertical polarization and horizontal polarization. This establishes which polarization you should use to get the maximum signal from your preferred DTV transmission. You will notice here, if we take the ABS-CBN signal, the vertical polarization gives you around 3 dB more if you use vertical polarization with horizontal polarization. The same is true on channel 43 of ABS-CBN. This is 52 dB versus 42. So that's about 10 dB better. Okay. So in this portion pa lang na, that we're talking about, we're talking of the stock antenna. Okay. And the stock antenna of ABS-CBN performs better in the middle frequency from channels 14 to 51. And this is actually, the red one is 43. So it has a better signal reception. And the difference between the horizontal and the vertical is quite substantial. Okay. 3 dB itself is already big. Okay. Some people say, oh, just 3 dB. Okay. But it's really substantial. So if we go to channel 43 of ABS-CBN, the difference is 10 dB. Sometimes this difference, or not sometimes, most of the time, this kind of value of difference in signal level could spell the difference in getting the signal or not at all. Okay, so we can fairly conclude here that ABS-CBN reception is better if your antenna is in vertical polarization. Okay, and that is the reason why the TV Plus, from design and when you buy it, it is meant to be installed in this way. So, ganyan siya, di ba? Okay, let's get an example antenna. So like this one. So this is a magnetic type antenna. So by default and by design, this is for vertical orientation. Because when you put it on the table or on top of your car, automatically it's vertical polarization. Now, if you want to do or to achieve horizontal polarization, you have to put it like this, in this direction, which is quite awkward from the design of this antenna. Okay. Now, why? Because ABS-CBN from the beginning decided that the polarization of their transmitting antenna will be vertical. Okay. This is one of the reasons why if you are orienting or using the TV Plus stock antenna and without even an instruction, you will mount it this way, vertical, okay, which is optimized to receive the vertically polarized transmission of ABS-CBN. However, the other networks transmitting in digital are not using vertical polarization. Majority of the broadcasters are using horizontal polarization, which results into a weaker signal reception for other networks. Now, this is not the fault of ABS-CBN. This is the technical decision of ABS-CBN from the beginning, and the other networks made their own decision. Okay, and by the way, when you bought the TV Plus antenna, they gave you the free antenna, so there's no one preventing you from getting another antenna, a better antenna for whatever purpose that you, or specific purpose that you have. Now we go to, you will see yung gray, which is GMA. The vertical polarization reception of GMA here is 62.1 dB, and because it's vertical polarization. But if you look at the horizontal polarization of GMA in this portion, It's 65.9. So this is almost almost 4 dB better in horizontal. So you'll see a pattern here, okay, in all the channels that for you to get better signal of GMA, you need to configure your antenna into the horizontal polarization. Now, if we go to TB5, the orange one, the vertical polarization on channel 16, reception is at 38.2. And then when you go to horizontal polarization, it's 43.1. Okay, so which means horizontal polarization for TB5 is also better than vertical polarization. So if we take the pattern on channel, this is channel 16, uh, this is channel, I think 20, is it indicated? Natakpan kasi nung ano natin. But this is for GMA, okay. Uh, channel 43 of ABS-CBN and channel 51 of TB5 frequency. So you'll see the pattern. Okay. Now, it's just so happened when I did the test, GMA had better signal than the rest. And maybe the second best performance would be the blue one, which is in channel 16. And then next would be the channel 43. Now, TV5 signal, the orange one, is not performing that bad at all. So you will see that they almost have a very linear performance or RF signal level in all of the range of frequencies when we were trying to receive the signals. Okay, and this would be the average performance of the antennas. So you'll see here that the stock antenna of TB Plus performs lower than all of the test antennas that we had. So it's inferior compared to Baron, to the DX antenna UA3P1 or UA3P2, the 3-element, even to the Mass Pro 3-element, and to the panel antenna, the white one that I've shown you earlier. Okay, so you already know what to do. If you want to get better signal reception, then if you have extra money, then buy an antenna and just keep your stock antenna of TV Plus. I'm talking about TV Plus because TV Plus has the highest number of digital TV receiver deployed in the market. I think from the statement of ABS, even it's about 8 million already. I have a question here from John Patrick Lumbria. Sir, what's the reason why uh, GMA's signal performance is better than ABS-CBN? Or there's a lot of factors here. So, transmitting tower location, transmitting tower height, and then the ERP or the effective radiated power of the station. So at the moment, what we know is that GMA is transmitting on a single transmitting antenna, single tower, single transmission. They don't have an SFN yet compared with ABS-CBN, but their ERP is quite substantial compared with ABS-CBN. So they're pumping more power over the air. Okay. I think GMA is on high power, and then ABS-CBN is somewhere in the medium power category, even though they're using SFN. That's one of the reasons. Else, another question: why I cannot detect UNTV and PTV in your location? Okay, the location of UNTV and PTV transmitting tower are quite different. PTV is in Visayas Avenue and UNTV is in Antipolo. Um, the distance maybe is around 7 to 8 kilometers away. Now, UNTV is on the medium to high power transmission category at the moment. So you should be able to get them if you have your antenna properly pointed in that direction. Okay. Number one. And then number two, you should check the polarization of your antenna. If you're using the stock antenna, the TV plus stock antenna, and it's oriented on the vertical, I suggest you tilt it and make it horizontal. That would give you around 3 dB, at least 3 dB more of signal if you want to capture that signal, UNTV. For PTV's case, they are on the low power stage at this moment. So we still have to wait for them to reinforce their transmission power and then the ERP. Typically, the range of PTV would be somewhere within less than 10-kilometer radius at the moment. So it's really hard to capture the digital transmission of PTV. If you really want to get them, then if you're using a dipole, use a 14 element, a higher gain antenna, or use an amplifier. So you complement the weakness of their signal. And then this one, reception performance for the top 4 DTV services using vertical and horizontal polarization with respect to different types of antennas, sample antenna. Again, we can see here that GMA signal outperform uh, all other transmission. So the next one here, I guess would still be channel 16 transmission. Okay. Next would be the channel 43 transmission. And then lastly, yung channel 51 transmission. Okay. Of course, these are data that I've collected through time. So I have just have to revisit them and try to present them to you guys for your appreciation and further understanding. Okay. Another question from Winchell Calces. PTV sa Las Piñas, in Las Piñas City, sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's intermittent. The orientation of the transmitting antenna for digital of PTV is oriented towards the south. Okay, actually, south a little bit to the southwest, a little bit. Okay, so you get most of the signal of PTV. So if it's intermittent, I'd like to know what type of antenna that you're using. But that would be easily solved if you use a high gain antenna. So I'm assuming you're using the stock antenna or a dipole. So use a 14 element antenna. So that would give you at least 4 dB, which should be enough if it's intermittent or fluctuating as you use. That additional 4 dB will keep your signal above the threshold of reception so that you'll be able to get better decoding, a more stable picture for PTV. So for the equipments I used for this test, very simple. I used the available antennas in the market, like the stock antenna TV Plus, the Baron VRL antenna, the Mass Pro 3 element antenna. For DX antenna, I used two, the UA3P1, 3P2, 3-element antenna, and their panel antenna, which is prettier by the appearance. And then for the test instrument, I used my Leader LF990, an analog to and digital signal level meter. Okay. It's basically it. And then some cables, uh, set-top boxes. Next episode, maybe I'll do an evaluation of set-top boxes. Depends on which one I think would be more pressing for streaming. So that concludes our stream for tonight. I tried really hard to make it short. So we're logging 41 minutes, unlike the last one. We went as far as 1 hour and 25 minutes. So if you have questions, just drop them on our channel and I'll try to answer them one by one. So thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Again, the purpose of our channel is to provide the right information for people to further enjoy the reception of digital TV services. Once again, this is James Rodney Santiago. Thank you very much for tuning in.